Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Eddie, will you take us through the mission and vision, please?
I will. Our mission is to foster academic and social growth for each student in a safe, supportive school environment. Our vision is to be a learning community that inspires our students and staff to think critically, grow intellectually, and live with integrity.
Thank you. Can I have a motion for consider additions to and approval of the agenda?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay. Anything need to happen here? Okay. All in favor of approving the agenda as it stands? Indicate by saying aye.
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 Item passes. Can I have a motion for the approval of minutes of the regular meeting of October 16th and the special meeting of November 2nd?
I will move. Second.
Any comments?
For the minutes from November 2nd under item 7, I don't actually have them in front of me because I had my notes earlier today. I should probably read no further discussion took place. I think it said no further discussion needed to take place. That's just a small little tense thing because there wasn't any discussion that did occur. But good job to those that supported.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes?
With that change.
Okay, with that change, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Item passes. Item 5.
All right, we have some awesome staff members to acknowledge tonight. So, grab it. Got it. All right, our staff members that we will be honoring tonight are Matthew George and Julie Fickey. Yes. I have some notes. All right, we'll start with Matt George, okay? Matt was nominated by his colleague, Marina Dieters. Marina is a school counselor at Finneytown Elementary. Marina shared that Matt is intentional about building relationships with his students and meets the students where they are. Matt teaches 5th grade, and he is in his 3rd year teaching at Finneytown. All right. And then we have Miss Julie Fickey. Julie was nominated by Carolyn Athoff. Carolyn is an art teacher at the secondary campus. Carolyn shared that Julie goes above and beyond in every task she takes on. Her leadership within the visual art department has created and aligned a cohesive team. Her willingness to take on tasks as a parent brightens students' school experience, such as prom team toilet and homecoming dance decorations. Her intrinsic motivation to be the best educator, mentor, and facilitator helps students with all interest levels succeed. She is the epitome of what a team member and a leader should be. Julie teaches art for our secondary campus. Julie began her teaching career at Finneytown in the fall of 1997. So, once again, thank you guys so much for all you do here at Finneytown and inspiring our students. Thank you so much. So you guys can come on up forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Freeze right there. Where do you? Okay. Can I have the 3 of you together? Or you want to come up?
Nope, I'm
Nope.
good.
Okay. All right. All right.
Okay.
Why don't we go right in front of the tables, guys? Can you guys?
Yeah, do you want
Oh,
to do the whole
Yeah.
board?
Yeah.
Always the lay across the tables.
Maybe not.
I just thought
You guys want to stand together?
No, I think you should be in the
Yeah. Yeah. You 2 in the center.
Yes, you guys are center of attention.
right. Okay.
Okay. All right. Let me see. I'm gonna go back.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
gonna go back once.
We got to do the whole.
All right.
Oh, and I got that.
Everybody gets it.
Okay,
Yeah.
guys. Ready? On the count of 3. We're ready. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Should I do one of the friendly shot?
Yeah.
All right, the friendly
It
shot.
makes all the wrinkles good now.
Okay. Yeah, it is. All right. Cool. Let me get a couple.
Oh, there's okay, hold on. I always told to take pictures for me.
I like Grant's idea.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
15.
Right, yeah, Jugie Hauser, yep.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Banks can take us through the administrative report.
Yep, I'm going to just flip the order. We're going to start with sharing out from Finneytown Elementary, so I'll turn it over to Miss Baker. Meredith? Okay.
I'm going to put the PowerPoint.
All right.
No, don't leave. I'm sure they're going to be great. So, my name is Meredith. I'm principal at Finneytown Elementary. I have Lauren Woodward and Jen Bayless. Lauren Woodward teaches 3rd grade. Jen Bayless is our literacy instructor, coordinator. Just blanked. New role this year, and really all of this came out of the literacy leadership team. Part of that was the new curriculum that we're in our first year doing, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot of work. But both of them are working so hard. Jen's working hard supporting all of our teachers. And so Walk to Read is a new thing that Jen discovered through her endless amount of research. And so asked if we could try it, and it's off to the races. So they are gonna share about Walk to Read.
Okay, so you can
Can I go to the next one?
Yeah. So we developed Walk to Read. Not we didn't. We got the idea from doing some research on what to do with our beginning of the year data. We always benchmark all the kids at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year. And our data kind of looked a little skewed, mostly probably because of COVID and some things that are out of our control. But in order to have a tier 1 system that's working efficiently, you should have greater than 80% of the kids on benchmark. Greater than 20. We had greater than 20% of the kids below benchmark. So with that percentage, it kind of created a situation. We had a lot of kids who needed intervention. And you cannot run tier 2 with that many kids who need intervention. You can't plan intervention with that many kids. So you can't intervene your way out of a tier 1 problem. So we had to take the wonderful resources that we that were purchased for us this year. Our foundational phonics program is wonderful, but what we were finding out as we started to try to teach and plan, it was over the heads of a lot of the students in that grade level. So with these 2 grade levels, we took that data. You can go to the next slide, I think. Okay. This is all for 2nd, 3rd grade. All the teachers are involved. We formed these groups based on the screener that was given. And when kids were identified as below benchmark, we then did a diagnostic assessment called the Basic Phonics Skills Test. And that allowed us to kind of narrow in on and hone in on the deficits that they had and the skills they were missing. And then we grouped kids based on those results. Once we had those groups made, and we did that with myself and the title teachers, looking at the data, and then we matched those groups up with our 95% core phonics materials. We used a scope and sequence, and we looked at the progression of skills, foundational skills, and we found the skill that the student needed, and that's where that group started. So it might have been a different grade level, but it was the foundational skills, they develop on a continuum, and if you miss one or some, then you are kind of at a loss. And so we planned instruction to meet those kids' needs. We got everybody the materials that we had, and we kind of shuffled them around. And we were off to a really good start, so I'll let you keep going.
So when they're in those groups, they have 8 groups that run between the classroom teachers, title teachers, intervention specialists, and even some of our assistants have groups that they work with. It's a half an hour every day. The kids really like going to the different classrooms, and it's nice to be able to utilize our personnel to have smaller groups for intervention for the kids who need it. From that, we took the skills that they're working on, and we have practice, because the research shows they can't just work on it in that half an hour. They have to kind of take it back to their classroom and work on it throughout the day. We also know a lot of teachers like to have like quiet reading time, but research also shows that that is not beneficial for kids who aren't readers. So it's essentially a waste of time if they're just sitting there reading when they don't know how to read. So we put these materials together, again, using materials that were purchased for us, so that they could work on decodable texts at their level with skills that they've been explicitly taught. So the kids aren't trying to decode and read words that they haven't had instruction on how to read. It happens at the word level to build word fluency. Phrasing was an area that we noticed that they were struggling with, which is putting words together and kind of like reading like a reader to develop fluency. And then they can take those materials with them to practice in the classroom. We also monitor their progress. Our title team is amazing. They work diligently to try to ensure that everyone is being assessed bi-weekly to ensure that the groups are working. It guides our team meetings that we have every week. We look at the data to see, like, are they progressing, are they not, do we need to review a skill? The groups are fluid, so they can move up if they're mastering those skills and ready for a higher level group, or if we notice that they still haven't reached a mastery level in the phonics skill that we're working on, we know that we need to reteach that so that they're not having gaps in their learning.
Within these groups, we give a test once a week on the decoding skill that we're working on, and we've created spreadsheets to where everybody, because there are so many kids moving around, there was a little bit of a concern of the classroom teacher, like, what if a parent asked me and I don't know? And they should know because they're reading with them, but they wanted like percentages and grades and the exact skill. So on the spreadsheet, we put the skill we're working on for the week and then the grade, the score that the kids get, so everybody is aware of what's going on. And we use that data to guide instruction and to plan for the independent practice. It's really important that independent practice time is separate. There's a time between learning and there has to be a time gap between learning and practice in order for learning that retrieval of what you've learned. You have to have that time span to retrieve the information, and so that's why sending that the decodables back to the classroom is so important, so the kids are retrieving the skills that they've learned in their small groups.
And I would just add, it's really nice to be able to see, like, even if a student isn't in your classroom, it gives us access to all of the students in the grade. So we can see as a whole, like, what skills are we really struggling with? And then we can make sure, like, as a team, that we can address the whole group as well.
And our goal of all this is that all of our students are reading proficiently. And we're making gains. Our progress monitoring so far is showing more progress than we've seen in years past. It's the most we've ever talked about data and used it in our decisions and discussions. And so I think we're heading in a really great direction. And I think we're just taking it step by step. Our multi-tiered systems of support, this tier 1 is the most important. It's the preventative layer. And so this plan is kind of helping set the foundation, and then we need to work on those other pieces. But this was a really big step for us. We're excited.
As a classroom teacher, it's just really nice to be able to have discussions where everybody's using the same materials, so that when you're talking about a practice that you're doing in your classroom, it's universal among the grades. So that's been really, really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for letting us know. Oh, yeah. We're prepared for that.
Questions?
Yeah, some of this, you and I talked very briefly on that, right? So I'm primed with some of these things already. And I'm not a plant in the audience either. So you mentioned tier 1 versus tier 2. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah.
So in the MTS, multi-tier system of support, the tier 1 is the instruction for all, and it's like the preventative layer in education. Tier 2 would be like tier 1 plus. So those kids we still have kids that are getting tier 2 supports. And those are kids that are the furthest below benchmark and the farthest from fluency. They're getting pulled in groups that are really focused on that, or if they're not making movement, our title teachers are working more with them.
And also, you mentioned it's like the kids are actually moving, and so it's just like by those groups, they're not like their standard classrooms.
Correct.
And so one of the things that really just struck me was that, in any classroom, those subgroups are going to vary in size, and you may not have a decent sized cohort. Mm-hmm. And having them all move together and go to that, to me, was just so powerful. And also, movement is an important part just humans. So yeah, that was really exciting. Now, are you doing anything with the fourth grade yet, or are you kind of looking at doing some of this with them as well?
Actually, fourth grade, it kind of organically kind of forms because we are piloting that foundational and that word study program in fourth grade. And we started using it, so we've done the same sort of a thing. We gave a pre-assessment and we moved some kids into groups, so they have an intervention time every day. So they have 30 minutes of intervention in fourth grade right now, which is, we've never had that before.
Right, because I guess the official breakout for early literacy is third grade, right?
Correct.
So, that was good because, where do you learn from what the requirements are for the state, and where do you actually just be smarter than what the state wants you to be? Because it's not a high threshold.
Right.
And just to me, the fact that it was like, hey, the fourth graders had some of the same COVID struggles, some of the other things too, and that being there for the first time ever. So congratulations, brilliance, and thanks for all the research.
Can I ask one question? The cohorts, are they leveled within the grade, or might you have students in different grades in the same cohort by reading level?
So it's the grade level is all moving at the same time, so it's all second graders at one time and third graders at another. However, the materials are, like I have a first grade group, but they're not doing watchroom, but it's different. That uses kindergarten. I have a third grade group that I'm using the second grade material, but it's just on the spectrum of the skills that they need.
And if you did have students that were above grade level,
yes.
What are they doing during that?
Yes, well, so we have kids who are working, we actually have 2 whole classrooms in third grade that are on grade level and above. So those teachers are doing things with them on their skill level, but we're also having this tutoring time that's starting at another part of the day, and they're going to be doing some enrichment during that time when other kids are receiving tutoring.
We also noticed, even if they were above grade level, a lot of times our really good readers were terrible spellers. And so we knew that that was a reflection of lacking some phonics skills without being explicitly taught. So it doesn't hurt for them to review those spelling patterns to just cement them.
And just excited to hear that you're using data and trying to make decisions
absolutely.
based on that. Just encouraging you, if it's working and you need support, come up through the chain. And whatever we can do as a board, I'm sure we will consider.
Thank you.
But then a question in terms of buy-in, not only from the staff, but what's buy-in like from the parents and the kids with the program?
I think the curriculum is really nice because it comes with parent sheets that we can send home at the beginning of the lesson. So each lesson has 5 days, and at the beginning of that it has like a practice sheet that you can send home. So that helps parents know exactly like what skills we're working on and reinforcing that. And the kids really like switching and being in like with a different group of children. They like getting to leave their classroom and go work with another teacher. And I think that it's building relationships between kids that aren't in our class. And so, I don't know, my group really enjoys it, and I hear a lot of positivity, and it's really nice to just get to be able to teach other students who aren't on my roster.
And I will say with teachers, it's been a lot this year because we have the 2 new resources for language arts, so that was a lot. And then starting this conversation at first, it was kind of like, whoa, and now you want us to move the kids and regroup, but then after some really good conversations and looking at the numbers, it was you can't have a kid sitting in a classroom if you're teaching above their head. It's just that's when behaviors happen. That's when, and I will say we do have some behaviors at this time of the day. But I will say I notice less behaviors because kids are engaged in instruction that's right for them, and it's a really brisk program. And so
it's very rapid,
lots of feedback, lots of responses from the kids. So it's a positive time in the day, and the kids like taking their stories back to their classroom and being able to practice with their classroom teachers. So that's really powerful too, that it's not just happening in a room, because reading is everywhere. And one more thing I'll say is I haven't heard this a ton, and it just made me so happy last week. I had a 3rd grader who really struggles, and she's in my group, and she looked at me at the end of reading and she goes, "Is it over?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I just never knew reading could be this much fun." And to me that just was like, you're getting what you need. And so like that was really a really special moment for me to see that she was, because she really struggles. So she wants to read every day, which is great.
Thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
next up, at the board meetings moving forward, we're going to have Grant during the administrative report share a quick update on our OFCC project for the board and the community. So with that, I will turn it over to Grant. Thank you.
Hopefully.
Hey, thanks. Take it first now.
Thanks, sir. I don't have a ton of copies, but these will be part of the official notes, so if you guys want to show those.
Thanks, sir.
Just so to keep us on track, let me just start my little timer.
You met yourself, Grant?
Yep, we let technology help us.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
All right, so just want to share just a little bit about all the things that are happening on campus over here, and as well as kind of around. So just a few things around timeline. So the new building is progressing right now. We anticipate that the site enabling package, this is like the first part of construction to actually allow construction to happen. That will begin sometime in May. In reality, we probably will not be doing any demo until kids are off-site, obviously, for the summer. But that will be starting this summer. That would include putting in a new parking lot, which goes directly to the side of the current football stadium, as well as a bunch of other things, including tearing down district office, a little bit of demo on the locker room area, and actually part of the 300 building. So right now we are anticipating substantial completion of the project in the fall. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
That's wrong. September of 25. My apologies. I don't know how that got changed. Not next, that's September of 25. I'll fix that. So the substantial completion, once we get to that point, we still have a bunch of punch work to do. And so we anticipate that that will take a couple of months. And right now we're looking at a mid-year move-in. And there's a whole lot that goes into that mid-year move-in decision. And so we are still working through that, and as soon as we can finalize which way we're going, we will be bringing that to the board and the community. What's currently happening right now? So we are currently in the first part of the project, which is called schematic design. These are all the basic outlines of where the building's going to sit, all the classrooms, where our different parts going to be. We've spent a ton of time working on all of our site and trying to figure out what do we have underneath our ground here, because there are lots of old fuel tanks. Back when we had individual boilers that were running off of fuel tanks, and so those all have to be disposed of. All of our utilities underground, and many of our utilities actually have to be rerouted because the new building is going to sit right where they're coming through our campus, and we still need everything to operate for the remainder of the 2 years. So lots of work around all of that. We have met with a variety of teams here on campus. So we've met with our high school team, our middle school team. We've gone with each of our subject areas. We've met with specials teachers, music and art, and starting to work through what is part of the building, what's part of that scope. So it is a process. So this is step one, like I said, of the construction process. The next one is our design. And when we get into design documents, we'll start to get more input, again, from staff members, and then there'll be a final iteration when we actually are ready to do construction documents. So the level of complexity of the drawings kind of increases over time. And so at each of those points, we'll be bringing that not only to the staff, but our students and community. So we will be hopefully being able to share some things soon. Demo of our old elementaries. So we are still working through some of the bid documents, but we hope to go out to bid in early January for that. That is a co-funded project, so that's not something that we are paying for. That's something that is a state allotment of money. And so we do want to leverage that. We anticipate Whitaker being that site being abated and demoed and basically returned to a field pretty quickly. And then Brent, we anticipate waiting until this summer. When we do Brent, we're going to have to shut down the drive lane, and so we do not want to do that to elementary parents. So we looked at it. It just, yeah, it was going to be a couple weeks. I'm like, that's not worth it. So we're going to push that until the summertime. The 100 building, so I shared a little bit about kind of over just a brief summary of the project, but I'm going to go back for a second. So this spring, in order to make space for the new building, we have to do some selective demo. And so the selective demo not only is a small section of the 300 building that's closest to the stadium, part of our locker rooms, but then it includes all of district office. So in order for that to happen, we need a place for district office to go. So there was a time where we had thought about using Brent, and Brent is in decent shape. It's not in great shape. It does have quite a bit of asbestos in it, that will be fun. But it is more square footage than we currently need for district office, as well as when we start looking at the renovation cost, because it's 3.5 times the amount of size we really need. All of a sudden, we're just spending more dollars on that. So the alternative to that plan has been to take part of the 100 building. So we're currently in the 100 building, but the part we're planning on keeping now is basically where the band and choir rooms are, and then everything to the side. So it's just one little rectangle. And so that rectangle, not only will district office be able to fit in there, but we're going to be able to renovate that in 2 stages. And so stage 1 prepares office spaces for this summer. So basically, this is a very soon project. And we have worked out the funding. So we have so ESSER dollars have different pots of money. Some can be used for instructional purposes, and some can be used for like infrastructure. So we're looking at using those infrastructure dollars. And so we've earmarked roughly $700,000 towards renovating part of that building to offset some of that cost. And then that allows us to do that work, and then we're only going to do the portion of that we need for district office. We're not touching the band room and choir room on the first part. So band will continue to have their classes this spring without any, hopefully major disruptions. And then the hope is that that project is wrapped up by the end of the spring, so that we can basically, district office can move to the 100 building, and then we can demo it, the old district office, and as we prepare for the new building. And then just kind of a lot of things in this project. It's all on timing, and everything has to go in sequence. So we do anticipate coming back around to the 100 building when we do final demolition of campus in spring of '26. So in spring of '26 is when we'll bring down the 300 building, 200 building, and the rest of 100 building, and then we'll do some final renovations of the band and choir room. And that is still to be determined, the scope. So some of that we'll kind of figure out as we get closer to that. But that right now, we're trying to minimize our renovation for exactly what we need. Trying to use some different funding so that we can keep it financially viable for us as a district. And also, again, the overall size in comparison to Brent, this is an appropriate size of square footage versus trying to renovate something that's 3 times the size we actually need. So that's our quick update. I think I got it. My phone didn't go off, so I think I did.
Congratulations.
With 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Excellent job.
Okay. All right.
I think that's good. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
When it comes time to do logistics or things around
Yep.
the move, I would be happy to help you plan or coordinate or any of that.
Oh, I appreciate that. So the logistics on this are pretty intense.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that both our architects and construction managers, whether or not it's the 100 building renovation, which is an outside project, or the OFCC project, or when we eventually get to the PAC and the gym and the ball fields. That's part of what they have to do. But
I
then,
meant for the move when we go to move in.
you
Yeah.
mean like into the new
Yeah.
building? Oh, cool.
I
All
will
right.
help with that.
All right. We will put you to work. It's going to be fun,
It will be a lot of fun.
especially if it's a mid-year move-in.
Yes.
We can all put on our work clothes and start moving boxes.
The question I had,
Yeah.
this spring, will there be like jackhammering in the parking lot to move around pipes? Sorry, that's a very specific question, but like, will like the car lane be messed up or anything?
Here?
Yeah, here.
So there will be definitely a disruption in the 100 building area, in the 100 building parking lot. We have not gotten to the logistics plan. I 100% anticipate there being some time where there's parts of that parking lot that are shut down, 100%. All of this over the next couple of years, it's about flexibility. We know that, like we have to do certain things. It's like once we start the building process, there it is, my timer.
Doesn't
Once we
count
start-
against you, by the way.
I asked you
All right,
questions.
great. All right. Once we get into the actual building project, we do anticipate a bunch of things having to shift on secondary campus. So we know that the new building is going, basically it's going right out front in the front circle. So if we have a construction fence, coming in through the front of the building is probably not an option. So we anticipate shifting the entrance to a side entrance for a period of time. So there are going to be some things as we move through the project that we have to shift. Those are all things that'll be, not only will be worked on by our architects and construction managers, but it'll be something that we work on as a team internally to make sure that we have a plan, we've communicated with everybody, we've figured out how is this going to work. And again, the name of the game is flexibility for the next 2 years. There is a goal in the end. We will have a beautiful new building sitting out front for our 7th through 12th graders. We'll have some renovated spaces over the next couple of years, hopefully next 2 to 5 years. And so it should be a really beautiful campus. So, all right. That's good. Anything else? All right, thanks.
Okay, public address. Did you wish to address the board this time, Mr. Wilbur?
Well, do I have to stand up?
No.
Okay. I'm Matt Wilbur, and let's see.
Hold on. I do have to read
Okay.
the statement to keep things out there. The board believes it in its best interest, and the best interest of the students of the district, to hear comments from members of the public. It has been therefore a long-standing practice of the board to encourage and allow residents to speak at the public meeting. This may be done by completing the bottom portion of this form and giving it to the board president prior to the board meeting. The following guidelines ensure that anyone interested in addressing the board may do so. The board conducts the business of the school district in an effective and efficient manner. Presiding officer will acknowledge those speakers who have notified the board via the superintendent or via the public address request form. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Each speaker addressing the board must state their name for the public record. Any materials or handouts must be presented to the treasurer for record, right here. Naming of individuals, profanity, abusive language, and speeches that invade individual privacies will not be tolerated or permitted. The board will take no action regarding matters or issues presented through public address in the meeting in which the public address was made. All necessary follow-up will be made verbally or in writing at a later date.
I gave you people typewritten things instead of using that form because you wouldn't be able to read my handwriting if I could put it on the paper. It takes me a half an hour to do that much typing. Because as I type, we have to backspace and everything, and that's not good either. So I try to give you something, at least if I can't talk about it today, at least have some notes about it, and I appreciate that. There's some things that just seem, just miscellaneous things. I guess I really appreciate the work you've done as far as identifying and giving credit to good students and that's also faculty. And I think that's an important thing. Then all of a sudden I said, I guess a lot of things I ask people is they don't know the answer to. And it's like we don't know what we don't know. Like I asked somebody a simple question. I said, they're recognizing students. That's good. I said, do you guys have an honor roll? And most of them would just say, I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know if you're supposed to answer questions
or just sit there and take it in and say, well, we'll think about it. I mean, that's I got the harder thing, unless you're saying, well, there's going to be a lot of kids that are going to be unhappy. The world's not all peaches and rainbows, It's a tough place out there. Someone said 50% are going to be in the bottom half of their class. I think they should know how they're doing compared to other people. I take full responsibility for educating my kids, and I didn't particularly expect to be in a parenting role, but I am. And so I just think that they should know where they stand. And, A doesn't mean anything. I mean, I got a kid at home that didn't enjoy having her letter jacket because she thought everybody got one. And, that didn't mean anything. It means it then. Do the kids have letters, athletic letters? Nobody seemed to know that. Because maybe they went through a phase where I'm not blaming anybody. I guess I'd say I'm not blaming anybody for anything. But I think somebody has to start saying, look, these people are responsible for this. These people are going to be accountable for this. And so that means somebody's not doing their job, and you got to take care of whatever you got to take care of. But I mean, I've tried to spend a lot of time trying to help the school system. I think I can, and I don't hold anybody but myself responsible for it. But you are losing kids to homeschooling. You're losing kids to other places. And you got a lot of people here and a lot of problems to deal with. I understand that. But there's just a few of the little things that I thought, why would they have an honor roll? Why was it? Sometimes kids say, I'm going to strive for that. I'm going to really, say, I'll give you $25 if you make the honor roll. The same thing with, I think we got to be real careful with this eligibility stuff for athletes. I don't know if it's in Division III or just where I coached. They use the term on course for graduation. So if you're, let's say I got a B the first quarter, I get a D in the second quarter, I'm ineligible, I think. But I'm a guy at passing grade. If you take it all together, I'm on course, I'm on par for graduation and so forth. I think we got to kind of rework, especially the environment we're working in. Relook at how we're dealing with things. You say, we want you to take chances and go for something, take a risk. Take a class that you're not interested in. Maybe you'll be interested. But then if it comes down to you really can't take that course now because now you're failing it, and that's nothing new. But I just think that the community. I think you're doing some nice things. The video they put together with the alumni, and you're putting those out individually. I like that. You're doing a lot of positive things there, and I want you to know that. So, you're not going to get rid of me. But when you see me walking in the door, I'm not here to complain or bitch because I'm responsible for my own kid. Now, I've been out of education too long to really know what's been going on for 15 years. But I think teaching comes down to having good, right people, and I think you got a lot of good people here. So, my phone. See, that's how technology. I don't even know how to turn my phone off. So don't ask me to be on a group chat or anything like that. What's effective communication and what's efficient communication? I want the old hard copy stuff. I want a grade card that I can keep forever, and I can print it off. But it's in my drawer, and in 20 years, it's going to be in my drawer. So, thank you for listening to me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Okay, review of action steps. I know I had one to get the write-up of Laurie's evaluation out to the board for comment, which I did. It was yesterday, but it still counts.
I did, Dave. You did?
Yeah. What else was on there?
I was to share the survey results with the board. I sent those out regarding the enabling conditions for collective efforts.
Thank you.
The October minutes are attached to the back, so
okay,
you can turn it back, please. They should be listed.
There you go.
The evaluations, collective efficacy staff survey we got, thank you.
Could I ask a clarifying question about the collective efficacy? What was the goal of the survey? Like, what was what kind of data specifically were we trying to? Obviously the questions asked certain things, but what was the goal overarching?
So we are using a book, actually multiple books on collective efficacy, which is basically the belief that we can impact students who have factors that may contribute traditionally to preventing them from learning or impact their learning, so that if we come together, we believe in our ability to impact impact their learning, we can do that. And so how do we foster that amongst our teams in our building? And so we bought the book, one book for all of the staff members, and then there's a second book. Well, there's like 5 books right now, but one of the books is on leading and how we lead that, and one of them is impacting the enabling conditions. So they identify conditions that need to be present in order to foster that. And the survey, the intent was to give staff an opportunity to give us feedback. It was actually, the survey was included in the book, in the appendix, and on where they felt we were in the different conditions that contribute to whether or not we can foster that. And so the primary area that showed up was goal consensus, and how do we foster that amongst the staff on us all working towards the same thing. And so right now our district leadership team is continuing to figure out then what does that look like in action. And so that is the work that's being done now in response to the survey data.
Provide Finneytown's athletic budget and band budget as compared to other schools in our league. Mr. Oliverio?
Oh, sorry, I wasn't able to get that completed.
Dave and I talked.
It's quite a lot of work, I understand. Assess the status and safety of the Whitaker Elementary parking lot. Did you get that?
I believe Grant already did, or the township did, because this parking lot seemed able to be parked on.
Yeah. And walked on.
Forward received board correspondence to board president and other members of the Board of Education from Jalecia. I'm not sure what that one was.
I don't know what that, yeah, I was wondering about that one.
Board received board correspondence.
I think there was an email that went to our spam folder that I found in there that you only received and I did not.
Okay,
So-
yes, and how we communicate with our community members.
Gotcha. Complete the Sunshine Law training. That was all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then recognize the Finneytown Technical School student honored at the OSBA Regional Fall Conference at our next regular board meeting.
So
We
did
had
talk about that,
conversation,
yes.
and the student's actually an alumni and now working, so
Yeah.
we talked about, and I briefly mentioned it in a conversation with Scott, but maybe that's something the Alumni Foundation can do, is honoring some alumni and their communication, because I know now they're sending out newsletters and things, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was all of the action steps from last month.
Okay, item 9, board coordination matters.
I'll start.
Great.
All right. Primary PTA, the next meeting is December 5th at 7 o'clock in the Media Center. We have our winter market coming up, which I'm really excited about. That's going to be on December 2nd from 12 to 3. We do need some concession items donated, and rumor has it there'll be Chick-fil-A that you can purchase, and also raffles. So your continued support is definitely appreciated, and it's going to be a fun event. Lots of local vendors. So December 20th, Wildcat Serve is having a wrapping party for items donated to our families in need. December 21st will be the distribution date. Renee Heath is looking for volunteers, so if you are in a position where you can do that, reach out to Renee. Kathy McNair, our social worker, is in need of pants, size 4T to extra large, gently used for our students. Our secondary campus nurse is looking for sweatpants, jeans, underwear, socks. If you can be a blessing, please contact your local office. Secondary PTA, the next meeting will be held on November 28th at 7 o'clock right here in the Media Center. Thank you to Meyer for donating $1,000 in gift cards to our Wildcat Serve projects, which is awesome. Jahid Rashid, a former Finneytown graduate and student, secondary PTA member, actually had a coat drive, and he was able to collect over 30 coats for students who are in need. So kudos to him for giving back to the community. The secondary PTA will also be partnering with Jihad. Am I pronouncing that right? Jihad or Jahid? Jihad? Okay. Yes, and they're going to do a tour drive, so be on the lookout for that. On how you can give donations for that. Student achievement, congratulations to our 28 art submissions that were selected to be showcased at our conference. Thanks to Julie Fickey and Carolyn, I said her name wrong too, Althoff, for gathering all of the artwork for those students. And Megan Kelly, I left someone out, I apologize, Megan Kelly, okay. I wasn't communicating with her, but thank you and kudos to them for all their hard work and dedication. Something Laurie and I have been talking about is the student reps' expectations. I know it worked out really well last year. I don't think we gave Laurie enough guidance on what we were looking for in the student reps. I think for me, I don't think it was limited to just having a specific group of students coming each month. I think more so my vision for it was to have different students from different parts of the building showcase what's going on at the campuses. I don't know if you guys have any more feedback as to what you had in mind for expectations. I even appreciated tonight how we had representation from, just the building leaders to kind of reiterate what's going on. So I just think we need to give her more guidance so that way it's clear and that way we're just kind of not missing things. So I found it very impactful last year. So I don't know how the rest of you guys feel about that. And I probably should have given you some notice that we were going to discuss that so you had time to think about it. But anybody have any thoughts or anything they want to share about that?
I mean, I think elementary school students could even be included but their parents would have to be here, so that'd be a little different. And then the other thought that I had was maybe some more guidance for the students so that they kind of know the nature of the communication so that they're not necessarily I don't know exactly what the role of a student and their interaction with the board should be, but I think that they might need that kind of guidance in order to know the kinds of things that would be, they could ask us anything that they want, but there might be things that might be better asked of a principal that maybe if they knew what category those things were, then they might not bring it up to us.
So we had talked about having a different theme or a different topic for each month. What if we had a student representative based off of that topic, presenting something or talking about something or maybe answering questions if it's something that we're going to have questions on, if we know that there's going to be a lot of them. Just depending on that topic, maybe there are specific groups of students that would be a good fit. And maybe that's a conversation we could have at the organizational meeting when we talk about what that's going to look like.
I think the other thing we have in the works, and I've shared a little bit about this, we are in the process through a grant process that we partner with Sandra actually with to develop a youth advisory council, and it's still in the development stage, so I'm not exactly sure what that looks like because it's still forming, but that might be another opportunity or group that we can bring in around topics or themes. So
I think that was more of what I was looking for, is more of a youth advisory council sort of thing. So that sounds really nice.
And that would represent K through 12?
It's not K through 12. Right now it is 9 through 12th grade to start off. I think I see it growing, but right now that's where it's at. I think the other thing in talking about doing every other month, so this month was FE, next month is secondary campus, and working with the building principals, it's like staff or students is kind of what I've said. Whatever you feel like you want to bring to the board and share with the board and the community. So it could be students sometimes. Right now the first two were staff, but it could be students in the future. So I think picking themes or topics would be helpful to guide that moving forward for sure.
So I think we can put that on the action list, is be prepared for the organizational meeting to have a conversation on topics. And not just for you, Lori, but all
Could
of
we
us
also
can
put it in our
think of that.
staff updates and newsletters if there's something that, someone want to share with the board, maybe reiterate that in the Monday updates, or I don't know if it's something you need help from the board. I don't want to.
I guess the directions would be something like, students, talk to your principal if there's something you really want to share that you're passionate about, maybe. I don't know, but.
Those Monday updates, do they go to the students?
No, they don't go to the students. That's staff.
That's just
only.
staff.
So there's themes and plans made by all the staff and the administrators already for every year. So I don't know if we need to, as a board, come up with new things. If they can talk about what themes, there's already a lot of time invested in that. So as the elementary or secondary does it, they present something that's been a focus area already. It seems like, we're not creating new work or,
Yeah, I wouldn't want to create new work, but if there's something that we have a particular interest in that we could ask about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think if there are topics that you are curious about, if you want to send those to me, and then I can work and kind of prep with the building principals what that could look like for next year and bring that as a draft for the board to look at and see if anything's missing.
Or if the various areas, the project-based learning, if they have themes they're doing.
Right.
If we're given here's these 7 themes here or there, we could say, wow, they're all great, but how about we really want to hear from this one here?
And also just like, you know, if the choir is going to have a concert, maybe come and sing like a selection or, you know, maybe, you know, the band or, I know that's a lot of kids to come in here, but small selection of students to come in and maybe, you know, share a piece or two or. I think a part of the thing for me is I don't have students at the secondary campus, so sometimes there's this disconnect, you know, if you don't have kids in the district, so it's kind of nice to see what's happening, but.
That's helpful.
Also, Personnel Committee met, a lot of nice conversations, and looking forward to see how we grow and discovering our why as a committee. So, yeah, that's it.
Great.
Just go.
I can go next.
down one.
So I was not able to attend the FMPA meeting due to a conflict, but I did have a chance to review their agenda. They don't have the minutes finished, so I don't know exactly what was discussed at this month's meeting, but I do know what was discussed at last month's and from some individual conversations I've had with some of those that were there. So on December 6th is the orchestra concert, and then on the 13th is the band concert. Unfortunately, the 5th grade band is not performing this year because the directors don't feel that the students are ready to perform. So they've only had one day a week this year of practice in school, which just isn't enough for them to be able to be proficient to have a concert. So I know that that's something that the FMPA is concerned about. I actually did have a little bit of a conversation with Dr. Banks about it. And I know that our district leaders are going to have conversations about that. But for me, that was an area of concern that I did have. That I wanted to make sure the rest of the board knew that that was it was something that got kind of caught up in the kinks of scheduling at the beginning of this year. And I would hope that it wouldn't happen next year. But there must have been good reasons why it occurred. So I did want to share that. Unfortunately, they're not going to be performing, but the rest of our band students will. On the 16th is the FMPA's Pancake Breakfast. It's sort of a replacement for like the dinner before the show, which I believe they stopped doing last year. But this is obviously in December instead of in the spring. And then on the 19th is the Elementary Winter's Choir Concert. I did want to share some thoughts that were shared by Marching Band Director Brad Delaney at this month's FMPA meeting. He said the marching band wrapped up their competitive season this weekend at the Bands of America Grand National Championships. The band capped off an already successful season with an 8th place finish in their class, keeping them one of the top 10 bands in the country for schools with up to 600 students enrolled in grades 10 to 12 for the second year in a row. This is an amazing accomplishment for our program. So I'd say from me, and I think the rest of the board would say so as well, but great job to our marching band, and thank you to the directors and parents that made this season's possible. So good job, band. On a sad note, this year's PEM concert, some of you may have seen on Facebook, it was canceled. There was an announcement that went out on the Finneytown alumni page. There is one of the founding members of PEM he's come down with an illness. His name is Mike Floyd Simkin. He's actually my neighbor's son, and if you would just keep him in your thoughts and your prayers, because we want they're going through a tough time right now. So that concert is canceled this year, but keep him in your prayers. I did want to say also on an alumni note, I have been seeing those shout outs to the sports teams from sports alumni, and I think that's really awesome. So love to see more of that. Our social media team that's doing that, I think that's fantastic. And then I also this is my final thing, I wanted to congratulate Seth Plout, who I believe is in the back, for his election to the Board of Education. And I've also wanted to congratulate Sarah Braun for her election to the Springfield Township Board of Trustees. Campaigning is really exhausting for those of you who have not done it. I think all of us up here have done it. But it's an important part of living in a democratic society. And it's important to have people on the local level to step up and make decisions that are in the best interest of our community. So I wanted to say thank you to all those local candidates who took the time to show that they're willing to serve our community by running for public office and being willing to take that time and do the hard work that needs to be done and for the good of our community. So thank you to all those that ran, and congratulations especially to Seth. So,
Thank you. So, going to congratulate Seth and Eddie, of course, also, so board member-elect and continuing on. Congratulations. So with the foundation right now, they're finalizing a job description to be a coordinator for alumni and a lot of different things. I mean, the department's going to be a lot of things they want, but then also find the right person. Some kind of thoughts are if it could be an alumni, somebody invested outside of it being a job for them. And so that position's being finalized, and it should be a really good position. They're looking to finalize that as well as some structural things within the trustees for that as well. And so that's really foundational work for them to set them up to continue and manage as they launch their campaign to help out the district. And that is the one thing I had, no finance.
Can I comment on that? I think that's fantastic. As an alumni, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I hope that maybe even 10 or 15 years from now, I or one of my friends might be able to have that position. So I think that's fantastic to have. That's something that I've wanted us to have for a long time. I think all the alumni have. So.
Yeah. Okay.
I went to the FAA meeting. Not a whole lot going on, just your usual going through all the different sports. I was pleased to see it seems that we have an increase in sports participation, at least at the FAA level, and that's really good to see. And then the boosters did not meet this month. Instead, they have put a lot of work into concession stands, so they're doing a lot of work to make sure that we have concessions at our sports events. It would be really nice if our community also stepped up and helped them by, staffing the concession stands. It's a big help for them. And then outside of that, OSBA had their conference. I did not attend the conference this year. I was not able to get off work, but I know Jamie went on Monday, and I believe Seth was able to go as well for a little bit. I regret missing that. That looked like it was going to be a good one. And then the only other thing I had to note is that I believe Tony and I both got an email from a doctoral candidate looking to do a study on the relationship between school boards, their superintendent, and their union representatives, that they said that we could forward on to other board members as well. So I will be sending that on if anyone is interested in participating in that. And that's everything I have.
Can I just tag on to the boosters real quick? We did have our winter sports kickoff, and
Yes.
the boosters were instrumental in partnering with us on that. And so that was a couple weeks ago, November 6th, I believe. And so that was a great success. And a lot of hands went into pulling that event off. So I just want to give a shout out to them on that.
Thank you.
Really quickly, I have not been meeting with Chris Gilbert from the township, just given that the conversations about Whitaker property development and that sort of thing is such an important topic, and not wanting to have potential sunshine law violations. I'm not on the committee, so I haven't been meeting with Chris because I know that those discussions would come up, and I don't want to open us up to any issues. As Lindsay pointed out, I went up to the OSBA meeting, mostly for the legislative session, just to vote on the new policies. The only change this year is in regards to students with disabilities that are on IEPs. And the policy that OSBA is now going to be pushing for and taking is that if a student continues their education after meeting the graduation requirements, we're going to push for those students to count as a graduate student. Right, and not those numbers will count as someone has met their graduation, not as a student who has not graduated, and that we will continue to provide services as a school district for those students. It was a pretty, it wasn't like last year where there was 14 issues and the meeting was crazy. It was a very quick meeting that happened, but unfortunately with the Ohio School Board Association conference this year, a couple of buses from Tuscarawas Local were coming in to perform at the event, and there was an accident with a semi-truck, and 3 students, 2 teachers, and a parent died in the accident from the school district. So they canceled the rest of the conference when they found that out, and it gutted the room. Obviously, it would have that effect. So thoughts out to the Tuscarawas Local School District for their loss. I know it's been really, really tough on them. So unfortunately, bad news at the end of the conference. So sorry to report that.
Okay, so we have an item here for acceptance of board committee report we got from the Beyond Differences Finneytown.
All right.
Yes, so I'm Scott Meyer. Kelly Lynch and I have been appointed by the board earlier this year to start the Beyond Differences Finneytown subcommittee. Our mission is to encourage dialogue within the Finneytown community with respect to issues around diversity, education, or equity and inclusion, and also belonging, and in particular with marginalized groups. So what we thought a good place to start would be was with the survey. It was a good way to, first of all, thank you, Grant, to reach out to a lot of people. I know, everybody's busy with their schedules and everything, and it's hard to get, volunteers to do certain things, but we thought a survey would be something quick and easy for the community to be able to participate in. And we thought that we would get a lot of good feedback from it, sort of get a snapshot of the different perspectives within the community, all community members. It was open to anyone related to Finneytown. If they're a community member, an employee, anyone that has a connection to the Finneytown School District. We did it in a Google form. We sent it out as all-call text. We had it on both principals' updates for a few weeks. The Facebook pages, we posted it on there as well. Let's see. We started it in May, it went from May through September, and the main goal was just to sort of, like I said, get feedback from our stakeholders. We were hoping to reach out and be able to get people that are interested in being a part of it. Kelly and I are just the co-chairs of it, so we see our role more just sort of advising and facilitating, what the voice of Finneytown is. So we wanted to get as many people involved as we could. We did end up getting 322 responses. 128 of those 322 asked to be contacted for a follow-up, so potentially willing to be involved with it. Our committee's going to use it sort of as a guide, like I said, to get contacts, but also to sort of steer us in the direction that we're going to end up heading. I thought we would share it with you guys. Hopefully it's helpful to the board and the administration as well. To do what you see fit with it, and if you want to work with us, talk more about it, we'd be happy to do that. So first thing we can just go through quickly is basically who took the survey. You can see 70% were parents or guardians. We did have a good chunk, though, of staff and community members as well. We only had a few students take it. As far as the schools, it was pretty well balanced. There was a slightly more from the elementary than secondary. You can see this, the race of the children represented there, the gender of the children. So we asked the parents, if they were parents, they were asked a group of questions that was specific just to their children that are attending the school. See, almost a third of the students were on IEPs. About 4% were ESL students. And then as far as how they identified their own race, you can see that skewed a little bit more to the white as opposed to the other races based on the demographics of Finneytown. Also looked at gender. So one thing I have to be careful about when we're looking at all this data, and this is a good example, is just all the limitations that a survey like this has. We asked a few open-ended questions, and we got good feedback there, but then we asked a set of 16 different questions that they rated on a scale from 1 to 5. Basically, 1 was strongly disagree, 5 was strongly agree, 3 was neutral. So we got quantitative data from that. Basically, you take the 322 times 16, that's over 5,000 data points of information from them. So we got a lot of quantitative data from that so that we can get an overall snapshot. I wanted to say, too, that this is just a view of the perception that the people who took the survey had, so it's not meant to be an assessment of the district. Limitations with the sample size. We were excited to get 300, but a lot of those subgroups are still pretty small, so when you look at the data, if you see only 5 or 10 people in that sample, you need to note that. And then another limitation would be just the representative nature of the sample. It wasn't required by everybody, so it was basically just the people that got the communication and wanted to take it. So those are all limitations. We only did it once, so we can't compare it to previous years or future years. It wasn't given at any other school, so we can't. It's not meant to compare to other schools. The only comparisons that we're trying to looking for is the different responses with respect to the different subgroups of the demographics, and also one question to another. But even that, we need to be careful how we look at those in a study like this. These studies don't suggest any cause and effect. It's basically just the data of what we got from the people that took the survey. So what I'm presenting here tonight is basically just the data, not not trying to answer the why, but just showing you guys what we have. And again, we can sort of use that hopefully as a piece to what is already being done in the district. And like I said, hopefully it's helpful to you guys. Sorry, I meant to say that in the beginning before I started rolling through all this. We had 7.2% identified as disabled. The English as first language, we can see over 90% there, but we did have a decent chunk. We also asked one separate question about factors that prevent participation. I know that's something in the district that, you ask the PTA, you ask, the administrators, the teachers. I think it's the case any school. We always want to get more participation with the community. So these were some of the things that they put. Probably not surprising that the timing of the events was at the top of the list, just because that's a struggle for a lot of people and it's hard to accommodate. And I know that's, like I said, issues that you guys are already addressing, like with the Pro Action Cafe. I know how you stagger those. So some things you do your best, but that was what we got from there. And so you can't read all the questions there, but I just thought I would show this as a visual. So these are the first 5 out of the 16 questions. And what you can see is the strongly agree. That's the blue on the left, and the agree is the red. So if you just look at those, you can clearly see overall the data was very positive. It was much more skewed to the agree and strongly agree than the other. And if you look at the other 11 questions, you can just sort of get a quick look about the spread of the data on those questions. And then what I did is I sort of separated it by different groups to see if a certain population of Finneytown is either above or below what the rest of the district is looking at. And the first number is the overall average of all 5,000 plus responses there. So if you think about 3 being neutral and 4 being agree, 5 being, that's a pretty high number, I would say. So I think that's pretty exciting that the overall average out of 5 is a 3.65 there. We can see that the students that had disabilities, the ESL students or parents, they all had views that were, and the students on IEPs all had a higher average score across the 16 questions than the average. If we look at gender, the student breakdown of gender was relatively balanced, female to male. The ones that actually took the survey, there was a lot more females that took the surveys than males, but males did give a slightly higher rating there. A couple of the questions where it said prefer not to disclose, that was about like between 10 and 15 people out of the 300, and for some reason, those were the averages were much lower. And you can see the same here with the responses by race. You can see all the different averages there. So if we think about, again, we don't want to read too much into it, but from the perspective of what we're looking at, that's certainly encouraging to see, right? Is that the marginalized communities don't feel, in general, you don't have the lower scores there. By relation to Finneytown, you can see the parents overall had the highest. The students, again, there was only 6 of them, so I didn't want to discount them because 6 kids did take that survey, and their average was 4.14. But the parents, 3.77, community members, 3.39, and the employees, 3.32. And then what I did is I took the 16 responses and I basically averaged them all out so that we could get an idea of, in general, what were the most positive responses. And these are all super encouraging, that, feel welcome in the school buildings. Students learn about people who are different, racially and ethnically. They communicate the importance of respecting all cultural beliefs and practices. They ensure all students are supported, and they communicate the importance of respecting all genders and orientations. So a lot of the questions that are more typically what we think about DE&I are a lot of the ones that are up there. So a lot of good scores there. The 5 on the bottom end, so then that left the 6 in the middle, but the 5 on the bottom end was communication with stakeholders, providing a safe and positive climate, providing safety for all students, promoting academic success, and quality programs for students with various talents, gifts, and special needs. And the last thing, it looks like a lot, but I just wanted to share it with you. You can sort of dig in there. And what I did is I basically took all the groups on the left. I had all 16 questions across the top. So the first line here is the overall average of each question. So that's on the top row here. Then we have all the different groups. We have the numbers of people that took it. So you can see again here, like, there's only 6 Hispanics, 6 ESL, and sorry, it was only 5 students there. But what I wanted to try to see is what specific areas are certain groups maybe far from the average. So basically what I highlighted, anything in green indicates that their score was 0.4, significantly higher than the overall average, basically. So 0.4 points or higher from the overall average, and the red ones were 0.4 or less from there. But again, like you see, there's nothing in the parent or guardian line, and that's just because that's 2/3 of the people taking it, right? So we still have to be careful when we look at all this data, that if you have 2/3 of the people that take it are parents or guardians, it's going to be pretty much impossible for their average to be that far from the overall average. But I didn't want to go through all this, but I did want to at least provide it with you, and that's something that we'll be looking into so we can see the differences between specific aspects and specific groups. Our next steps then are to reach out to the 128 people that wanted to be contacted. Most of them said they'd be able to be contacted by email. Some we're going to follow up with a phone call, and basically see, like, what are their talents that they can share with us? What are their skills that they can bring to the table? Who wants to be involved on a committee? And then once we can start having some meetings and develop a committee, that's when we'll really sort of take off and start planning more things. But we wanted to start and not really jump right in, but sort of take it easy as we're doing it and get this data, give everybody enough time to give us a good starting point going forward.
Okay.
Any questions? I can take them. Otherwise, like I said, I appreciate it, and we'll be using it. And if you need any, if you're interested or you look at it later on and something doesn't make sense, or you want me to go into the data a little bit more and tease some stuff out, I'm happy to do that as well.
This is good stuff, Scott. Thanks for all your hard work with this. I know it took a lot of effort, so.
Happy to, yep.
Really quickly, saying this was the first time we did it, nothing about future or past. One thing about during surveys like this, obviously, is you now have a baseline. So it doesn't matter what the data is, having a baseline is a good thing to measure against in the future. Something I would suggest is we've got a recording of the presentation that you just gave. Mm-hmm. So that could be something. Send the link, hey, it's the 7:38 to 7:45 of the presentation to the people that took it. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes when people take surveys and never get anything back, they don't know the results of the effort that they put in. It might be appreciated. They can choose to ignore it if they don't want, but if they can see
that's a great
idea. You made a presentation
yes.
of the effort that they gave is being looked at by the committee. It could help in the future, maybe get that, they talk, and it may get that 322 up to
for sure.
400.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. And a few people noted that in the comments, that just they're just excited that their feedback,
Especially the 128 that said they want to help get them information
Yeah.
so that they can see it.
This is a lot of data, and I think it's incredible. It's nice to see it all, but your interpretation of it and your explanation of how data works is very thorough, and I really appreciate that.
Sure. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
Okay, we're into,
We have one more thing under the coordination.
was it, oh, sorry about that.
It's
Got
sandwiched
jumped
in the
over.
middle.
Yep. Okay, so discussion about, I'm presuming this is about having FMLA and paid parental leave in the board agenda?
It's been a long day.
So I guess there's kind of, the question is, are we going to continue to have that? And I guess the question is why and why we're not. So I did check with Dave. There's nothing really in our policy saying that the board needs to vote to approve these requests. So I guess my question, so we don't have a reason we have to legally have it. I guess my next question, what do we see? Does anybody see anything as a benefit to having those in there?
Question I had, 'cause I got the email from the leader, just like the rest of you. Do you know if someone was to request, hey, who's on FMLA, who's on BPL leave with Finneytown currently, is that something that would be that would be subject to a public records request?
We could release that they were on leave, but not
the
use
type.
them for family medical leave. We could say the type of leave.
So we could say FMLA or PPL?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have to do that? Is that?
No, we do not have to.
Oh, we don't have to release it.
What if
Sorry.
if somebody sent an email asking, we'd like record of anyone who is currently taking or who has taken PPL in the past year, we would provide them.
Okay.
That is
Okay.
a public record that we.
Because that's part of how the district works. As part of the workings of the district is paid parental leave.
Would they be able to request any other leave?
They could request
paid
you
time
took
off or
family medical leave or leave of absence. What we would not release, if there was an email that said why somebody requested family medical leave, like the actual
Right.
condition, we would not be able to provide that. We'd have to redact that part of the email.
So then PPL could get to that. Because in most cases, they're going to be off. If it's a woman, one may assume that it's because they had a child. So technically, that information is then being released.
I guess for me, the question is where is the line between paid time off, paid parental leave, right? Would we not be, we wouldn't disclose paid time off, or would we? Would that count as a public record? Not saying why they're taking time off, but so-and-so had so many days off for paid time off.
If we identify it, then it's part of the record. It's
It is,
something that
okay, so
release
paid time off is part of the record too.
To the extent
Okay.
it's identified as paid time off, yes.
Interesting.
So the type of leave would be a public record, not the reason, but the type. No matter what the type is, PPL, FMLA, something else.
Okay.
I guess my question is why we want to leave it off. I know in the past we talk about transparency and the more the community knows, the better. So I want to know the reason why we don't want to include it. I know we want to include it on our job postings and things like that. So I want more clarity as to why we don't want to include it.
Well, that's very different, putting it on a job posting than putting Jamie Ray was off on paid parental leave or took FMLA.
Okay, I'm asking a question like
I know.
you're already attacking.
No,
me, so
I'm not
asking a
attacking.
question.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
I don't
ask the
think that,
question.
I'm saying it's putting that we offer paid parental in a job description is very different than putting in our agenda that so-and-so is taking time off or has been granted Family Medical Leave Act time for it. It's not the same thing.
I mean, obviously, it's not the same, but I mean, we err on the side of being transparent, so I don't get why this is any different for me. I'm asking.
I was the one that asked for it.
I'm asking you for your reason.
My reasoning is I don't think that transparency in terms of district operations for general things is very different than opening the door to people's medical to people not being at work for medical reasons. And paid parental is essentially, in most cases, going to be a medical reason that they are not at work. And I trust Dave and Lori are making the right decisions, that if someone is requesting FMLA or paid parental, that we are granting it. That's enough for me to know that they're not, but they meet the requirements to obtain the benefit or the legally required leave that we have to give them. I just don't think it should be in our minutes on our agenda that person X has the potential to not be here for 12 weeks because something's happened in their family.
So I see two different answers. One, transparency I see is more for your leadership team, right? We need to show transparency for the actions that we are doing. The paid parental leave is our staff and support that we are providing for them. I don't need to see their transparency as much in our board meetings. That's not something I was asking for. So for me, I don't see it as a transparency issue. I see us need to provide our transparency in what we're doing, but I don't need to see necessarily when they're taking time off. We don't see when Lori has time off. We don't see when the staff has time off outside of FMLA and PPL. And to answer on the other side, I see it as an efficiency thing. I mean, we're not really talking it. We're not really asking questions about it. Do we even have a right to say no to FMLA anyways? Why do we need to talk it? Why do we need to have it in our board meetings? I trust Lori and Dave if they say that they've earned it or they've, met the requirements, just as they would for paid time off.
Can I weigh in? So the reason why I asked about whether it was public record is because putting it on our agenda is therefore not disclosing something that's not otherwise public. So really, it just makes the information easier to get if it's on the agenda. So then it's not a question of whether we disclose it; it's where. So for me as a board member, it's helpful to see it on the agenda because then I know who's out of the building when I might not know otherwise, and I might have to email Laurie and say, hey, who's out of our building currently? So
Even from a parent standpoint.
Or someone else.
Child's teacher may be out for a few
So it's
months.
ease of access to information. It's not the information itself. So for me, that's why I asked the question, because that's the deciding factor for me. If we're disclosing it, then I wouldn't want it on there. But we're not disclosing it. It's already public.
Yeah, and I think there's 2 points there, just from my opinion. But publicly putting it out there and offering it versus having someone ask for it, there's a difference there. And I do think parents should know when their teacher is not going to be in, whether it's for paid parental or FMLA or any reason. We don't have to tell them why, but a heads up, all parents should know your teacher is not teaching for an extended amount of time. I think that is something that parents should know, that, hey, there might be some instability. If your kid starts throwing fits at home all of a sudden and you don't know what's going on, it could be because they all of a sudden have a sub that they didn't expect, or a long-term less stability in the classroom, or something going on that parents should know about.
I'd like to get feedback from you guys, if you don't mind, on how it affects your position.
It impacts Dave more than me, honestly, and his notes, and particularly with FMLA, not necessarily with PPL. In our conversations, you've shared that there's...
It was just the way that we did it before I got here. I got used to that. It helped me stay organized. I think of it in terms of if we are involved with any litigation, board policy is always a nice thing to have to explain what you've done. Aside from that, I don't know that it's necessary. I mean, I'm only looking at it from a legal standpoint, and I think that this question being raised has helped us understand that it's not required. It's just something that you do if you find benefit in it, and so we have to decide: do we find enough benefit in this to continue it, or are there concerns that make us, want to say, no, let's not?
Yeah, pretty much everything else on the agenda here is for us to take action on, and this isn't. So to me, I'm just kind of looking at it from that perspective of, we're not approving it, we're not taking action, we're not stating opinion for certain. So I don't know why we keep it in here. That's just my perspective. Is it's not adding any value, and
from a legal perspective, this isn't your only record. of who's on FMLA, so it's not like we don't have it elsewhere.
There's a lot of forms for that one.
I still want to know, maybe like quarterly, who's out at a given time. Just as a board member, I'd like to know who's taking advantage of the PPL, which is a leave that we established that's not necessarily required. And the FMLA.
You want to know who, not how many?
I'd like to know. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if who is public record, I wouldn't mind knowing who happens to be out.
Well, who's public record if it's requested?
Well, I mean, it's something I'd like to know, so I guess I'd have to request it quarterly. But then that's work on Lori. But not because I'm upset the person's out. I just like to know who's in the building and who's not. If they're going to be gone for weeks. Because sometimes I recognize staff members. I'm like, oh, so-and-so might be having, and I know if it's public, I can look at it, I can say this person's out, I might be concerned, I might think of that person that I may not know was dealing with whatever this thing, and even though it says FMLA, and it doesn't necessarily say specifically what, it helps me to know who's in the building and who's not. I don't know otherwise.
I appreciate that standpoint. That's kind of where I am with it too. It just, you build connections with staff members, so it's one of those things you say, if staff member's out, and you're like, oh, they got a baby, and congratulate them, send them a card.
Kind of my thought.
It's more of a community feeling for me as well.
And if I went up, I wouldn't go up to them, but if I heard through the grapevine that somebody was out, and they were okay with me knowing that, then I would congratulate the person in person if I thought it was appropriate. But
I think that's fair, for sure. And I mean, I think we all want to have those connections. I just don't think that that's what this is doing.
Do we need to vote on that, or so we can move on?
We'd have to have a motion, wouldn't we?
Yeah, this is just discussion, so we need to have an agenda item for that. So maybe we're prepared to vote on that for next month. Okay, now things are back in order here. Thank you so much. We're on to financial matters. Can we have a motion for 10.1, adoption of consent calendar?
I will move.
I'll second.
Okay. David, you take us through this, please.
Okay, item A, the monthly financial report. In our general fund, we had total revenue in the month of October of $1,607,348. Expenditures in October of $1,513,183. The cash balance in the general fund at the end of October was $16,289,819. Of course, there's a lot of additional detail on things that did occur in the month. Item B, depository investment balances as of October 31st, 2023. Our U.S. Bank operating account, $587,812. Our U.S. Bank construction funds, $3,672,054. Star Ohio, $24,998,784. Star Ohio Construction Fund number 2, $3,185,172. Star Ohio Construction Fund number 1, $1,184,466. And then our Star Ohio account, in which the state proceeds are held, $1,406,971. Item C, interest earned on depository investment accounts for October. General fund interest income of $117,375, and construction fund interest income $20,494. Item D is a monthly bond project spending commitment report. That is the last page in the current financial packet. This month we had a few little expenditures. We did receive and pay for our bleachers at the elementary. That was about a $36,000 expenditure. Total expended thus far on this project, $23,713,672. We still have open purchase orders in the amount of $347,700 approximately. The purchase orders that are left are basically It's mainly our construction management contract, and we're working through some issues with our HVAC. And so we're sort of, we need some things to happen before we pay those final amounts out. At this point, we have approximately $7.7 million that's uncommitted. That's money that we will be using for our phase 2. And so it also does include the money that the board set aside for inflation of construction-related projects. And so that money is in there as well. So we believe that we're in pretty good shape at this point moving into phase 2. So at least for the OCC project, which is secondary campus. Of course, there are other projects on the secondary campus that we're looking at as well. Not all of those are funded. But anyway, we do have money for the secondary campus project and should be able to do a nice job with that. Item E is a recommendation to approve an advance to the Art Besser Fund from the general fund in the amount of $54,546.51. And this was needed because our federal grant was locked up because of closing out 1 year and starting up anew. And so something we have to do. This money will be returned before the end of the fiscal year end. Then item F is a recommendation to approve a purchase order of the Hamilton County Educational Service Center as listed. Are there any questions on any of those items?
Yeah, so on the, using the ESSER money for the district office, is that money that would otherwise have been taken out of one of these interest, kind of the high interest, the 5.56 interest-bearing accounts? Does that help with that at all?
No, actually, well, yeah, sure. If they would have reimbursed that timely, then yeah, we could have kept that money in these accounts. But these are reimbursement grants, so we can't get the money until we spend it. And so yeah,
it's actually kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
We'll have to take it out of somewhere.
Right.
Till we get it back. Okay, gotcha.
They closely guard their money.
Yeah, they keep the interest, not us.
One more thing I did want to mention is I did do a restatement to the September financial report that I shared last month, and I put that in the notebooks. There was a $6,000 change that we made, some additional purchase services and supplies that were actually paid out of a grant instead of the general fund. And so that adjustment was made, and again, it was pretty minor, but I wanted you to have it, so it is in your notebooks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, roll call vote, please.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Gast?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Item passes. I have a motion for item 10.2, resolution requesting authorization for the county auditor to submit a modified tax budget.
I will move.
I'll second.
Okay, this is a standard item. We do this each year at this time. The Ohio Revised Code has some archaic language when it comes to the tax budget. It's important. It's the first step in the financial process for budgeting, and this new process that they've come up with, which we've been doing for, I don't know, probably 15 years now. It's a better process in terms of using more useful information to the community. To the extent that the community's involved, then they get to see our 5-year forecast, and they get to see information on the funds that we collect taxes on from the community. It's a lot more useful and user-friendly, and so we've adopted this each year. And so it's another recommendation, again, to do that this year.
So we have to ask to give more details, basically. Officially, just because of the law, right? It's like, can we please provide you with more detailed data, and we have to.
Yes.
Okay. Because it is a request. We're just, okay, great. Okay, ready for roll call vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Gast?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Item passes. Carry a motion for item 10.3, resolution requesting the county auditor to make advance payments of taxes pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 321.34.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Dave, another regular scheduled.
Yes, it is. Yes, this allows us to collect tax revenues prior settlement, so it speeds up our cash flow, increases those interest earned numbers.
So may we please have our money now?
Yes.
Okay. Ready for roll call vote, everybody? Okay.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Gast?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Item passes. Now to superintendent's recommendations. Item 11.1, adoption of consent calendar. Carry a motion.
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, Dr. Banks.
All right, so item A, most of this is personnel items, but item A is going over some of the supplementals for approval. Item B is we have some extended learning that's going on, and Sarah's going to facilitate that for us. I did want to talk just briefly about item D, the Stronger Connection Coordinator. That's what I brought up at last meetings. We're getting ready to move along in that process, and Cindy is sending out, and they're going to have a brunch in January on a Saturday for our child care providers and daycare providers, because we figured at the end of the day they'd be exhausted and stuff like that. So we are working, our team's working on developing that. Cindy's leading that and communicating. So just a little bit about that, but that is moving along, and then we'll have some parent sessions like we talked about following that. Our subs are on there for item E. Item F, we are sending 2 of our facilitators, Mike Kennedy and Mike Rosa, to a restorative practice training in Eastern Michigan, which is where most of the administrators who helped train the trainer went to be trained. It's a fantastic program there. The next item is an overnight wrestling trip. There will be a couple more that we bring to you next month, but this was prior to our next board meeting, so we wanted to get that on there. And then item H is the first review of the school calendar for next school year. Just briefly, this is a kind of a process that we go through. We meet with the union, we meet with administrators, we develop 3 options. I do have to get a shout out to LaTora. She does the bulk of the work and the development of the calendar, and then we send it out to the staff to vote, and option 1 was selected, which is the one before you, and so that will come to the board next month for final approval and adoption.
Can I ask a quick question about
Sure.
that? I saw it was 51%, but there were 3 options, so the other 2 must have been significantly less than, or it's not like it was just over half, but like.
Yeah, the other ones were split where there wasn't, the next closest was 31%.
And what are kind of the highlights here? Are we looking at shorter or longer breaks, or different, or start times?
So I think option 1 is the only option that had all of our in-service days full day. One of the things we've talked about and we're trying to look at is increasing the frequency of our planning time and time for conversation. So we had taken in the other options full days and made them half days, where students would leave at lunch, and then the afternoon period would be for staff learning. It's the same amount of time off, it's just developed differently. With those options, I think one of the things that option 1 also had, besides full day, it had a 2 full weeks at winter break, which I think was appealing. This is the one calendar option, which was surprising to me, that goes into June. So I was kind of surprised they selected that, but that's the one they selected. So that's one we're bringing to you.
There's no early releases.
There's no, currently on this, no. There's no early releases as part of this.
So then I'm seeing here August 21st, Wednesday, first day for students. Again, elementary school staggered.
We haven't gotten to that detail, but yes, I think there will be a staggered. As soon as we get that, we'll release it and share it with the community once we get the board approved one.
So with the second quarter ending after winter break, will they be secondary exams before that then? Will they
That's a good question.
do the,
Yeah.
Because there'd been effort to have the second quarter wrap up before winter break.
We have not done that in several years.
Oh, really?
We just
Well,
can't get it.
at one point in time, there were efforts.
Yes, there were, what we try to do, and when we met with the union, we try to get our quarters as equal as possible and the number of days. And so we're usually between 30 or 43 days and 46 days per quarter. And if we try to squeeze the first 2 quarters, unless we start before August 15th, we're not going to be able to do that. So.
And there still are midterm exams, right?
For some, yes,
Okay,
not for all.
For secondary, from a lot of the classes, unless the teacher decides not to. Or,
Yeah, I think it just depends on the course.
Yeah, that could actually be going away too, I imagine.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Back when I was in school.
Right.
We don't have them where I teach, so.
Yeah.
And then item I is just acknowledgement of a Kroger gift cards in the amount of $382 to the Finneytown Local School District Social Work Fund for needy students from the Vineyard Finneytown Church on October 13th, 2023.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the stronger connection with the preschools and everything. That's really, really great to hear all the details on that. And I was curious of item F, if you could have said the word train 3 more times, it would make me happy.
Right.
Any constructive comments? Okay. Well, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Gask?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Item passes. Item 12, we have action steps out of this?
The only one I had is that we wanted to review our topics of interest that we wanted to maybe discuss or see if we had things that lined up with what Lori and them were going to have for the January meeting, for the organizational meeting.
Yeah, is it,
Thinking about that.
yeah, is it possible for general topics, themes covered, secondary, elementary, to be sent to us ahead of time? I don't know how much work that'd be for building leaders, just if they're covering something in social studies or art or all those various things. If there's, I'd just like to know, I just really like to leverage what the buildings have already worked on to
What's
focus on.
already out there.
Yeah, I think one of the, if we're starting this in January, I think in terms of timing and planning and curriculum maps, things shift. And so I think for us, if we just have themes or topics, and then I'll work with the building leaders on figuring out what specifically that looks like. And if something special pops up,
And I think
we'll
we'd
add.
figure for a February start, given that the January organizational meeting's the first, like the next week is our first meeting, so that would be reasonable to ask someone to.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Hey, Laura.
Yeah.
I have already assigned for the year some of the topics, and so people have already started presenting. I just wanted to throw that in there before some work is done, but I just, for the January and March ones, we've already committed, so.
So maybe realistically.
So the ones that are known, we'll put those in and put those as firm, because I do know staff have committed to that. And so I'll work with Carol and Meredith on what that looks like.
Can I ask, as a board, do we plan to have another strategic planning meeting before Christmas? I know you've been kind of talking.
Yeah, I've lost track of the next step on that, to tell you the truth.
So I talked to Tom this last week, at the end of last week. He and Mary facilitated the focus groups in each of the buildings. The preliminary results are back from the survey. And so what they said as a next step, Tom was going to give feedback to Innovate K-12 from the focus groups to put that as part of the survey and overall data package to kind of inform the strategic plan. Tom is coming to our district leadership team meeting next Monday to do a focus group with our district leadership team. And then I think in terms of that, then he'll bring that to the board to review the data and start mapping out what that tells us in terms of strategic planning and the goals and next step. So that's
Would there be other opportunities for the community members to get involved also besides the Pro Action Cafes, or is it just the Pro Action Cafe?
In terms of strategic planning, I'm not sure. I think that's a question for Tom, because I'm not sure if him and Mary have a plan for that or not.
He had mentioned it, I think, but I'm not sure where it is in the process.
I think he said it was primarily
We asked
those,
about it.
but I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
It'll be there.
Yeah. Yeah, we can-
So there may be
We can
another-
tell them it'll
I
be
think
there.
we did have a homework assignment from the first one, though, that we should, but I don't remember what it was.
We kind of made up a homework assignment and did not align with his plans. So we'll need to.
Okay.
Right, so we'll have to, it was around community engagement, but that's not what he was asking for at the time. So we might have to, bring him along to what we want to.
So for my scheduling purposes, in the back of my mind, we could have another meeting briefly with.
Yes. Yeah, Tom's pretty timely. I think if you tell us it's going to be an hour, it'd be an hour.
I'm sure it would
It'd
be,
in and
yeah.
out.
And
Okay.
then Dave, if we can bring the athletic and band in if you get a chance to do it. Put it on to the next one. So, thank you.
Can I ask whoever talks to Tom, if he's going to want a meeting, can we go ahead and start scheduling that in respect to the fact that there's holidays?
That's
And
what I thought.
yeah.
So do you want to check with him? Well, you'll see him Monday, right?
I'll see him Monday. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Although he will talk literally any time, any day of the week. And unfortunately, I'm amenable to that, so that's happened several times. Okay, anything else? Okay, announcements. The next regular meeting of the Finneytown Board of Education will take place on Monday, December 18th, 2023, 6:30 p.m. in the Media Center of the Finneytown Secondary Campus, 8916 Fontainebleau Terrace, Cincinnati, Ohio 45231. Open forum will begin at 6 p.m. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll move.
Second. No, second.
Wow, that was lightning.
I hadn't had a chance to get a second in all night. I was getting it in there. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.